Good day, everyone, and welcome. This would be a short presentation. So the intention is we can create some discussion if there are some questions about it. This is a topic that we have been trying to promote and even making that our purpose in Uruk project management as the idea of transforming project management. So the question is, what does it mean? What does transforming project management mean? What do we mean by respecting our diversity? These are some of the questions that we will be answering in this presentation. So let's get going and make it very quick. So obviously, when we talk about transformation, maybe some people would ask a question, and obviously we have been asked a question, why do we need to transform? I mean, why project management is an area that requires transformation? And basically, our view is the following. The project and project management success. If we look at, and I mean, obviously, this is also part of the reason why our company exists, right? If we look at historically, the project management and project success rate, and notice, and I will explain this a little bit more later on differentiating between project success versus project management success. But what we know, based on the numerous sources, and that is project success and project management success rate is low, and maybe too low is a better term. And it has been low for decades, and there's too much debate on methodology and other issues rather than how to improve project management or how to transform project management or to identify what are the problems facing project management in order to deal with them. Instead, we debate waterfall, agile, hybrid, what is the right methodology, and we spend so much time and energy on this. And I'm not saying the debate shouldn't happen, but obviously we end up spending too much debating rather than doing. And as an important piece of information as well is, despite that, the idea that we have many professional associations focusing on project management around the world. Some of them are very global and spread all over the world, and some of them are quite big, but they are maybe within a country. So despite these various associations and their numerous certifications, we have not seen any significant improvement in the area of project and project success. And if we look at some of the statistics that has been published over the years, the project success rate obviously depends on the sources that are available, has not changed much. Some years we have more or less, but nothing significant. And we'll share some statistics a little bit later, which raised the question about the value that these professional associations are sharing. And recently, I've been putting a lot of posts and even challenging these professional associations on the concept of project success. So, however, what we know, we have a lot of organization, we have a lot of certification, we have millions of people getting certified, but we are not seeing any significant improvement in project success. So somebody or somehow or somewhere, we need to ask the question, why not? And unfortunately, I don't have the answer. I have some of the answers, but obviously I cannot answer for the professional societies. The consequences, and this is why we definitely need to consider transformation, is that the consequences are billions of dollars in losses. I mean, and billion is a low number. I mean, billions might be for some companies. And obviously, as economy around the world, if we look at the trillions of dollars that are being spent on projects, we are literally losing trillions of dollars, either in delays, over budget, or lost opportunities. And of course, we're not talking about one company or one country. This is more of a collective kind of an impact. Recently, I was at a conference, and one company said that within the last 10 years, on one type of a project, not all their project at the company, only one type of project, they've lost over $1 billion. And that's basically one company on one type of their project. And of course, there are many, many, many examples like that. Now, Well, how does that relate to Uruk? Why is this topic, transforming project management, is relevant to us in the company? And recently, I mean, the reason I put this here, because recently one of the advisors said, why do you care, Munir? Yeah, I mean, you are a business, and you are a business to make profit, and you are a business to sell software. Why do you care about the whole idea about project management? And isn't that something that professional societies should worry about? Well, I agree. Well, I agree partially. Yeah, I agree that professional society should be the one that need to worry about this. However, that doesn't mean we don't have a role to play. Even if those professional society are doing good job, we still basically have a role to play in here. However, the sad reality is often we're not, as I mentioned, we are not seeing a good result coming from this association. So which means that our role has become more crucial, why we need to be involved. So we feel very strongly about this, to the point where we made this challenge, the challenge of project failure, as our purpose as a company. If you go to our website today and you look at our purpose, you're going to see the statement, right? Enable organization to elevate performance, right? And obviously, we're talking about project program portfolio management, to optimize their capital deployment expenditure and lead to maximizing shareholders and stakeholders' value. That's the purpose of our company. Now, obviously, this is the purpose that is really in two parts. Part of it is caring about the profession and helping elevate project management and the status of project management, and which means help organization. But also, obviously, focusing on our client, that we want to help them elevate performance. Obviously, in that case, if we can help them elevate their performance, that indirectly affect us as well as a company, hopefully positively. So what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to divide it into 4 parts. We'll talk a little bit about the current reality. And some of this material I've shared in previous presentations, so I'm not going to go deep into most of these topics. And some of, like for example, on respecting diversity, we have recently done a presentation to PMI in Germany on this topic. We also did a presentation, a webinar a month ago on tailoring, and that is the record for that webinar. It's on our YouTube channel that also talk about the diversity and tailoring and project management. So over here today, I will be very brief. That's why I will try to make this presentation short. So I'll start with the current reality, and we'll talk about touch on respecting a diversity, and then I will discuss, or at least I will mention the 2 routes or 2 aspects of transformation that are a core focus to us today. Although I will probably in this presentation today, I'll focus only on one of them, and why it matters, right? Why it matters. Obviously, we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, project success, but I will also tell you why the solution we're proposing matters as well. So why we identified the problem, and when we talk about the solution, we will show why the solution matters, and we believe the solution is a good one. Otherwise, we would not be talking about it. So what is the current reality? If we look at project and project management performance, first we separate the 2 topics, right? Unfortunately, today, when we see posts online and LinkedIn and other places, we talk about project and project management failure and success without context. So we ask people, for example, how do you assess your success? Maybe some will say, we'll ask the customer for feedback. Then the second question come up. Are we talking about project management success, or are we talking about the project itself? And how do we differentiate? And so that's part of the dilemma that we have. When we look at statistics, and of course, the claim, some of the claim here could be questionable and maybe need to be debated. However, if we accept, for example, in technology project, the source that provides this information that a lot of people don't like it. They don't trust it. maybe because they don't share their methodology, or how do they assess? However, if I accept that organization, good or bad, using the same technique since the 80s, then I can use their data qualitatively, right? And basically what they've been telling us that is over the years, project success rate have been hovering between 28 and 36%. Some years goes up, some years goes down. Again, I don't know if how we can debate the quality of the numbers, or we can debate the methodology that's used to generate that rate. However, as a minimum, we can say it's a consistent methodology. It's been used over the years. Again, good or bad. So basically, it's telling us that only about a third of technology projects are successful. There's another source on technology project I didn't share here. Oxford University Professor Flyberg have done some research on major technology projects, and they were showing that those projects could be 200 to 400% over budget, and many of them fail. And he shared many examples on some of the research. Obviously, we don't have enough time to talk about all the research done on this, but basically, there has been significant research. Although the methodology is still, everybody have a different methodology. If we look at mega project, this is a topic of interest of mine. And I did a lot of research when I wrote my book about leading mega project a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. And the data we've seen, for example, if we look at independent project analysis, where they do a lot of benchmarking of process industry, oil and gas, petrochemical, mining, those type of projects. And they've done a study about 320 mega projects with an average cost of $3.2 billion. Now, typically a mega project is anything over $1 billion. And those 318, I think, if I'm not mistaken, project, the average cost was $3.2 billion, right? There was only about 35% success rate on average. In some industries, they had better success rate, higher than 35. In some industries, it was as low as 20%, which means only 1 out of 5 projects are successful. Now, typically when we go to, and these are industrial, sorry, I should specify here, the study was done on industrial mega projects, which mean typically projects by oil and gas, petrochemical, LNG, and they are typically done by private companies. When we look at data on infrastructure projects, and those are typically run by government around the world, and Oxford University have done a lot of research in that area, and Oxford University claimed, and right now one of the most popular book on project management is probably a book written by Professor Flyberg, is basically only 0.5% of projects that achieve cost, schedule, and objective target. I think the number is like 40% achieve cost and schedule, but maybe miss. But here we're looking at if we're going to consider cost and schedule and objective, right? 0.5%, which is really scary. If we look at capital project, I'm back again at independent project analysis. By the way, I have no business with them. I don't deal with them. I don't have any partnership with them. I don't have any collaboration with them. So I'm not trying to promote them here. But from my years of experience in the industry, is that this is probably the only organization that does deep benchmarking assessment. So when they go and assess a company, they do spend a lot of time and energy. And obviously, companies pay for them to do this assessment, to basically benchmark them and to assess success. And based on numerous research that's done on capital project below the mega class, right? The mega class, we shared already here. This is below the mega class. That means project in somewhere could be between $50 million to $500 million. And they've looked at thousands of projects. It's basically they're showing actually not bad, 60% success. I will come back to the same source later on in the presentation. PMI, unfortunately, PMI is sometimes very disappointing. They don't do studies, they do surveys. And based on the surveys that PMI published, is that when it comes to capital project, engineering construction project, that 70%, roughly 73% of these projects suffer from cost or schedule problem. So basically what that it confirmed is that we have significant problem. This problem has been happening for a long time. We are not seeing any major improvement. Now, on top of that, and this is one of the area also I've been trying to talk to PMI about and to GPM and other professional societies and publish about it on LinkedIn, is that the idea of having some kind of a clearly defined project or project management success. And recently, I mean, this week, I think probably there has been a post online that's been getting quite a bit of debate on this topic itself that I posted, is that to agree on something, right? And how can we agree when we talk about success? Are we at least agree? Are we talking about project success or project management success? Are we talking about technical success or are we talking about business success? When we say success, what does it mean? Right? And can we come up with some definition? IPA is the only independent project analysis is the only company or organization where, obviously because they do this as a business, they have clearly defined metrics for that defining project success, and it consists of 5 elements. I would love to talk about this maybe in another presentation, but basically they have. Other than that, there are a lot of success model out there, but the professional societies, for example, have not, and when I say professional societies, obviously PMI, IPMA, even others, have not defined or came up with a clear definition of when or where or how to assess success on project or any suggested recommendation or criteria. A few years ago, we did something. We did something ourselves, and we did basically work on what we call the 4-dimensional project success. And in that case, basically, we have a model that look at project success from the 4 different angles. Again, that is a topic that probably deserves a separate presentation by itself. As a result of that, we still find failure is too common. And sadly, many of us do not agree with root causes. And that's one of the reasons we see so much debate online that basically said waterfall or methodology or traditional or agile. And we debate those things in order to come back to root causes. So what are the root causes? And of course, this is our opinion, and we can debate it. We believe one of the core issues, and that's one of the reasons that is we think is part of our transformation effort, is the absence of effective organizational project management systems and method in many organizations. And many organizations outside the capital project industry, often enough, we don't even see any OPM systems in place at all. And even when those systems exist in technology companies or capital project companies, some of them maybe developed years ago and they haven't been updated or they're not being maintained. And of course, in some organizations, there are excellent systems. They are center of excellence. And these companies deliver that by having continuously a high degree of project success. They do benchmark well among the top. And of course, in that case, probably project management is a competitive advantage for them. So again, in many cases, systems don't exist. When they exist, they might need improvement. And that was an interesting enough when we started Uruk and working on software, is that even the top companies that we know in capital project and oil and gas, that they have a highly effective project management system or good project management system, they haven't digitized it yet. They have not spent time and energy into embarking on or embracing digital transformation, where their project management systems or methods are fully digitized. Now, that doesn't mean they're not using software. Of course, they still use software. But recently, for example, I was talking to a company and a leading company on how they manage project, and they said they probably have 100 tools. So imagine that. So they have tools. They're probably using some software, but they have not spent time and energy into digitizing their value delivery process, as I will share with you later. And often, project management is not recognized as a core organization function. We don't see project management department outside oil and gas. We rarely see a company that does a lot of projects, including government entity, that probably spend billions and trillions of dollars on projects that have formal project management. Outside some major government like the US government, or like in the UK, they have the UK Infrastructure Project Authority, Infrastructure Project, IPA, is also called IPA. I think Infrastructure Project Authority, which is focusing on infrastructure project. We don't see a lot of formalization of project management or recognition of project management as a core function. As a result of that, and maybe it's two sides of the same coin, because these systems don't exist, as a result of that, we see there is lack of integration of project management with the rest of the organization. And that brings us to talk about, sometimes we talk about topic called, we call it technical project management, where really project management is, we manage project by having blinders on, right? We see only what in front of us is that from the time the project is approved until we deliver an output, we don't see what happened before in project management. And even, professional Tombak Guide, for example, talk about the project start with the charter. That means all the front end work, the feasibility, the business case is done, and the project was approved before project management get involved, and end up with the delivery of an output, which means we're not really highly integrated with operation. And that, as a result of the lack of system and full value delivery system, we see these kind of gaps. So what I shared is that the current reality, we have problems. So what can we do about it? Well, before we do something about it, we have to realize that we're not all the same. In many organizations, especially in technology and software, project management often does not exist outside of the development of the software itself, which means project management does not exist until we start implementation stage. In that case, concepts like Scrum and Agile and Jira as software tools works relatively probably good, but they're focusing only on the development stage of the project, or in the Rook terminology, we call it the implementation stage, right? So before that, project management is almost non-existent. If we look at capital project, often project management is not physically there or strong or tools that exist outside construction or the engineering stage. Some aspect in some organization, they might have project management in the front end, but not enough. And when it comes to infrastructure, it's almost non-existent. So what I'm trying to say here before we go into the couple of slides that I have on this topic is that there are a lot of commonality in project management. What we say is most projects share some set of processes. However, a project management method depends on the project parameter, which means type, size, class, innovation, whatever the case might be. So as a result of that, we need to understand that project management, although have some similarities, is not the same across the board. And that's why we need to respect that. We need to distinguish between service providers and project owner. We need to understand the impact of the project type, size, complexity, degree of innovation, project management approach, development approach. There are a lot of variables that affect us. Further, we need to clearly understand the difference between task management, stage management, technical project management, and product delivery management or value delivery management. So there are a lot of questions here, and I'm not answering them today because obviously we have our last webinar was on this topic, and we spent a full hour on this topic. And our video, the video of that webinar, is on our YouTube channel. So please, you can refer to it and get more insight. So let's, I don't need to go more deeper into this area. So let's come to the solution. what are the two aspects? And that's really a major effort where I personally have been putting a lot of energy. And obviously, as the founder and CEO of Uruk, the company is starting to put a lot of energy on this topic as well. And so we see two aspects of transformation. When we talk about transforming project management, we see it in two separate areas. Let's highlight them quickly. Strategically, what we believe we need to do, and we wish professional society do a better job in this area, but we will definitely do our part in our social media outreach, in our webinars, and anywhere we can get an opportunity to speak. And of course, as we communicate with our client, we focus on trying to get them to understand that we need to elevate project management to the status of core organizational function equal to all other functions. It's very frustrating when we see HR department work on project, IT department work on project, marketing work on project, engineering work on project. And all of these functions have department or division in the company, but project management is not recognized as an equal function. What does that mean? That means we need to recognize some organization. If an organization have department, obviously if they are too small, they don't have department. But once they start having departments, and for different functions, HR, IT, finance, right? And they deliver value through project, they must consider formalizing project management as a core function. What does it mean? That doesn't mean a PMO. It means higher than a PMO, right? Obviously, if they have nothing, a PMO is a good start. But we want to elevate the status of project management. That means moving away from PMOs to PMDs, or in the Rook platform, we call it PMU, Project Management Unit, because in that case, whether it's a department or a division or a section or an office, doesn't matter. The U is generic for all of these types. But we need to move. Now, what's the difference between a PMO and a PMD, for example? PMO is an executive decision, can set up a PMO and can kill it overnight, whereas a department or a division as a formally recognized is typically much more formal, meaning board of directors, meaning they are set budget, there are certain rules, there are policies they have. So it's much higher level of recognition and probably impact on authority. Now, some PMOs, maybe few, I don't have a scientific study what percent, but I'm willing to say probably less than 10% of PMOs around the world today probably perform at this level. This is why we need to move away from what I call it the 49 flavors of PMOs into having to have formally recognized. If all these departments work on projects, why project management is not equal to them? Now, this is all I'm going to say about this in this presentation. Maybe I will close maybe with a reminder on this topic, but that by itself is a huge topic and requires a lot of discussion. And maybe the best way to handle this topic one day is through a panel. So we have different opinions. And operationally, and that's the focus on the remaining part of this slide of this presentation, is that we need to start to think differently on how organizations manage projects, right? Remember, we need to transform how they manage projects. And we need to get them to understand they need to elevate how they manage projects. Yeah, the strategic part is about recognition, long-term strategic value of project management. Whereas the bottom part said, okay, what we need to focus on, how are we managing projects? And basically, we need to start thinking that task management, stage management are all important for us. However, we need to shift toward a focus on value delivery, on the entire life cycle, especially for project owners. And that is where I'm going to be focusing on the next few slides. First, definitions. When we hear methodology or method, we are producing a video on this topic, so I will be quick in here as well, and the video should be published soon. that basically talk about project management method versus methodology, and also talked about include this slide specifically, for example, and then talk about the next slide as well. Today, when we hear about an approach, a technique, or a method that we use on managing project, for example, when we hear a critical path method, we use the term method here. And obviously, that means it's a project management method. I agree with that, right? However, that is a method that is limited to scheduling. And of course, it could have some ramification on risk and other areas, but primarily it's a scheduling method or technique. This is why we prefer to use the word technique. If we talk about earned value management or earned value method, again, this is something we can do to help us with project control. If we talk about PESTLE method, P-E-S-T-L-E, that is a risk management technique or approach, right? And there are many techniques and approaches, and even sometimes we use the term method on project, but often these are areas where they are limited to a specific topic or function within project management. So we have to be careful when we say that. We need to understand the limitation, the value and the limitation of that term. However, in Uruk project management, we prefer to call those approaches or technique. To us, when we use the word method or methodology, it means a method to manage the entire project across the project life cycle, and meaning from idea or product vision all the way until initial operation and beyond. That is the Uruk way. That is our definition of value delivery. We want to focus on value delivery, not output delivery. Right? And to do so, we have to consider the entire life cycle from vision until operation and beyond. As a result of that, we see that the project management method must consist of 6 components: project life cycle, phases and stages, stage management, how we manage every stage. Every stage must have an output. Every output must go through a decision point or a gate. Now, these are 5 points. Where are the 6? The 6th one is what we call project management function and action, meaning scope, cost, schedule, risk, quality, all those areas that affect every one of these 5 other components. It touch on all of them. Now, what we are saying, regardless what type of project you work on, in any company, in any industry, in any domain, anywhere in the world, if we really talk about a methodology for managing project, right, we need to have these 6 components. These are fixed. They are a must. If you are not using any one of them, there is obviously a choice that some people do not have some of these elements. That's fine. That's fine in the sense that we know that exists. However, that indication that probably their project management performance is not optimal. That means they are delivering project and they are completing project, but they could do much, much, much better, right? So in other words, their approach today is short-handed. And in order to get the full potential, they really need to think about maximum optimal way of managing project. Now, notice I'm saying this is a must for every project, anywhere in any kind of organization. But notice we are not saying this is exactly the same method that apply everywhere. That's impossible. All of these elements, they need to exist. Notice we are saying a project lifecycle must exist, but we're not telling you how it looks. All what we are saying that you need to have a project lifecycle. That project lifecycle need to have phases or stages. How many phase, how many stage gate, how many deliverable, right? How you manage every stage, that there are a lot of variable in that area, right? But what we are saying at the minimum, we need this, and then we can, using the principle, these 6 components, these 6 principles, we can depart from here and start to do what we call tailoring. And again, that was the subject of our last webinar. This is what we call the Uruk standard model. So basically, this is the model that we started with when we developed our camp methodology years ago, and we have adopted and modified for the Uruk platform, is what we call the Uruk value delivery model, right? Or value delivery methodology, if you like. So basically, it starts. Typically, what you see here is that pinkish color area is typically where many of the project management guide, including the Pumbag guide, focus. So basically what we call technical project management, and that's what they could define as a project lifecycle. Often start, notice after here number 2, usually that's where this charter is published, right? So that discovery phase is not included. And based on numerous research that we have done and others have done, problem, success, and failure is predetermined in that green zone in the discovery phase. Therefore, what we're saying, if you want to ensure value delivery, you must consider the discovery phase in your project lifecycle, your product delivery, your value delivery. And later on, we need to consider as well, as you are implementing the work, you need to be getting ready for operation. And operation could be obviously whether you are building a chemical plant or building a software or building a hotel, you have to be ready in parallel. So basically what you're saying here, this is a model and this is the standard model. From there, we deviate. From there, we can tailor. And tailoring, that means the number of stages, stage deliverables, stage gate, and their name could vary. The content of every stage deliverable and the criteria for every stage gate could be different. That could be, it will be different. And the sequence and degree of overlap between the stages is also tailorable. So what we are saying, we can start with this principle, and then we can start to modify. We can make 2 stages in parallel, like we did with implementation stage and operation readiness stage, right? You can overlap some stages. You can combine some stages. You can split some stages. So it's up to depend on the tailor, on the type of organization, the type of the project. There we do the tailoring part. Now, in my initial presentation on this topic, I had many more slides. I deleted, but I decided to keep this slide because often people come back and say, "What, Munir, Agile Development?" Yes, what's Agile Development? Okay, or what is Agile, or Agility, or Waterfall? All of these do not exist as project management method. All what we are saying is that if we go back to the previous slide, is that in the front end of a project, doesn't matter what type of project it is, you're gonna have the same type of stages, the same, regardless what type of project, whether you want to use agile or sequential, you're gonna have a concept, business case, you're gonna have a feasibility study done, right? You're gonna have defined requirement. All of these are the same. The main difference happens when you approach gate 4 and 5 here, is that when you are ready to go to implementation, in that case, the big question becomes, are you going to implement the product of your project using sequential development, what people call waterfall, which we don't agree with that word, which means you have to design, build, test, release, or you're going to use agile, incremental, iterative development. And that's why this chart is here, right? When you conclude the front end, the first few stages from gate 0 to gate 4 or even 5, once you complete all of that, then the big question will be, can the product of your project be delivered in pieces or as a whole? And I always talk about this. If you want to build a house, giving me the foundation doesn't give me any value. I have no value. I don't gain any value until you give me the full house. That means the foundation, the wall, the windows, the paint, the roof is there, right? The sewer system, it's ready for me to go live in that house. And that means it's big bang. We call that big bang development or traditional development, right? That is the way sequential development. There are different names for the same thing, but basically your implementation stage must go according to this. However, if the product is software, or maybe building a community where I can build incrementally or iteratively, then in that case, I will go to iterative development or incremental development. And by the way, it's not unlikely to find all three types happening on the same project. Recently, there was a question going on ERP implementation, and I think that triggered us to think about doing a webinar, most likely the next webinar, maybe we should be planning in a month's time, is talking about the Uruk platform as a case study, which would be a program management case study, because we look at the Uruk platform as a strategic program that consists of sub-programs and that consists of projects. So that might be an interesting case study to discuss. How are we going around from the product vision for the Uruk platform, and how do we divide that vision into multiple steps and implement it, which is basically that is a great example of agility in practice. Actually, I have a video on our YouTube channel called Agility in Practice, and it discusses the Uruk platform, but it's very quick without getting deeper into the idea of strategic program, basically program management and project management, and how the two integrate. Because some people argue, oh, a program is nothing than a big project with multiple pieces. So again, let's not go there now. That will be probably a future, either next month or the month after, we can do a webinar on that subject. Now, why it matters, I'm going to be closing with this slide. If we look at StageGate.com as a company, they've done some research and they've asked an independent organization, and you can see it here on the top right, as a benchmarking organization to validate the idea of a stage gate model, right? And because some people argue a stage gate model is a bureaucratic process, it slows down the project. What the studies have shown is that if you follow a proper stage gate model, you can expect up to 30% increase in speed to market. Whatever that product you are building, you can potentially deliver it faster, right? Remember the triple constraint, cost, time. So can we do things faster, better, cheaper? Well, this study have shown that yes, you can do things better, faster, cheaper, right? So 30% increase in speed to market, 2 times revenue and profit, and 2.5 times more likely to be on budget and on time, right? So we can deliver with quality and deliver profitability and fast. IPA and the study that I shared earlier, what they showed with us is that if you follow a proper stage gate model, you can expect 5% net present value increase. Now, obviously, net present value meaning basically profit. And basically what they're saying is that when you decide to launch a project, and basically you assumed or you calculated based on your feasibility study or your economic model that you're going to get X dollars net present value of that project. If you follow a proper model, you're going to get X plus 5%. So you're going to basically achieve more than you expected. That means a proper stage gate model can help you even do better than what you expect. If you don't follow, or if you follow a stage gate PLC model, but not so well defined, you can expect up to 22% reduction in your net present value. That means if you expect to achieve X, you're going to achieve X minus 22%. And if you don't follow a PLC stage gate model, you can expect up to 45% reduction in net present value. So if you remember earlier, what IPA told us that on these type of project, thousands of projects, they are 60% success rate, right? So basically what they're saying project management wise and project wise, 60% of those projects are considered success or they're considered done. However, they suffered from one of these. So those who are using this basically did better, where people who did not use proper system, they still finished the project, they still made some profit, but about half of their profit that they expected disappeared, which means they can do much better. Let's close it here, and we have about 10 minutes for question and answer if anybody have. Silence means no question, everything is cool. Okay, if that's the case, let me stop recording.